All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the District Sewer Use Ordinance Revision Public Hearing, May 28th, 2026. Today, we're going to go through the meeting notice, public hearing, purpose, and logistics of the Sewer Use Ordinance, and we'll give a short overview of the key highlights of the actual Sewer Use Ordinance changes, and then we'll talk about next steps for the ordinance.
So the public hearing was noticed in accordance with Wisconsin State Statute 200.111D and 200.451C. It was published in the Wisconsin State Journal and sent out to customer communities. We also have an affidavit of notice here up by me if you want to take a look at that, or happy to send that to you upon request. The hearing is being held to receive comments on revisions made to the district's sewer use ordinance. As Marty said, he'll do a presentation of notable revisions. And then we also sent out correspondence to impacted stakeholders with revisions that we thought would be specific to them for them to note. Any individuals who wish to comment can do so following this presentation or in writing via email. Any individuals who wish to comment at this public hearing have to indicate their intent to do so either in the Zoom chat or in the in-room sign-up sheet. I also want to note that there's not a quorum of the commission present today, but if you would like to present testimony to the commission, it will be taking up the sewer use ordinance at one of its June meetings, and you're welcome to do so during the public appearances section of those meetings as well. Additionally, there is a recording of this hearing that will be made available on the district's website. So just generally speaking, a sewer use ordinance like the one that we're considering today is a set of local rules that legally regulate the use of a public sewer system. It allows, the district sewer use ordinance allows the district to implement its authority over our sewerage system facilities with the goal of protecting public health, environmental quality, and the district's wastewater treatment system and conveyance facilities. The sewer use ordinance is adopted pursuant to and in implementation of Wisconsin State Statute 200.111D and 200.13 sub 3. Again, kind of generally speaking, and Marty will go through some more of the specifics, but a sewer use ordinance specifies the types of waste that cannot be discharged into a sewerage system. It imposes requirements on industrial wastewater dischargers, provides a mechanism for issuing permits and allowing connections to the district system, and enables the district itself to comply with the administrative provisions, water quality requirements, pretreatment effluent standards, and other discharge criteria that it's subject to under state and federal law. It's important that a utility like the district regularly reviews and revises its sewer use ordinance to make sure it's reflecting changes in state and federal law or guidance, incorporating updated best practices, and addressing necessary edits and clarifications. And that's largely what this sewer use ordinance update did. So again, kind of generally speaking, the sewer use ordinance, the district sewer use ordinance had not been updated in over 10 years. And so largely the updates we did with this iteration were to make sure it's current with statutory and regulatory requirements, streamline and clarify reporting obligations, including for customer communities in the district, increase protections for district infrastructure and processes, and clarify some definitions and other areas of the ordinance that we thought were somewhat unclear and could be reorganized or made more concise. So I'm going to hand this over to Marty now to walk through some of the notable revisions by chapter in the ordinance.
Thank you, Vanessa. So I'm just going to go through some of the high-level, big-ticket revisions, but if you're interested in seeing the full set of revisions, they are on our website here posted on the screen at medsewer.org/SUO. So in Chapter 2, that's our definitions chapter, and so we have some newer revised definitions for terms like effluent, infectious waste, and interference. And making sure definitions are correct matters because it reduces disputes over interpretation, improves consistency across permits and enforcement, and also aligns us with EPA rules. In Chapter 4, that's our connections, approvals, and fees portion. Some of the changes are that the communities are now expected to report new sewer connections. This is a reporting of new sewer connections, reporting of expanded, changed, or newly purchased businesses, and reporting standard information like ownership, contacts, and business types. And this is important because it allows identification of businesses that may need permits for pretreatment and also prevents surprise discharges that may cause problems to our sewer system. So these changes are really intended to provide clarity around approval that's required under certain connections and clarity that we can charge direct connection fees to interceptor sewers, and also on the timing of connection fee payments that matches our current district practice. This helps us keep our transparency and predictability and ensures that the growth helps pay for system capacity. Also in Chapter 4 is information about our chloride, and this is just clarity and expectations for customer communities, again, related to reporting. So reporting related to salt storage, handling, truck washing, maintenance, runoff to sewers, chloride reduction measures, and sharing existing reports with the district. And this is important because we know chloride pollution is a problem for lakes and streams and drinking water, and these changes in our sewer ordinance support compliance with state rules and regional reduction goals. Also in Chapter 4 is our fats, oils, and grease requirements, and we made some clarifications and requirements that grease and sand interceptors are required when appropriate, and explicit statements that grease and solids should not be discharged to sewer, so clarity on that. And also indicating that hauled waste disposal is an appropriate pathway to not discharge to the sewer. And this is very important because we know that fats, oils, and grease can solidify inside pipes, cause massive blockages, sanitary sewer overflows, and costly damage to infrastructure. Moving on to Chapter 5, these are limitations on discharges to the sewer. So this is, again, clarifications around the district's ability to prohibit certain discharges. And that's a way to ensure that there's no problems with the plant, the collection system's protected, and that the district can meet all federal, state, and local requirements, and so the district can protect human health and the environment, specifically related to our effluent discharge and our beneficial reuse of biosolids. We also added language clarifying that the district can actually incorporate best management practices and local limitation standards or requirements on discharges to the sewer system in individual permits or on a case-by-case basis. Moving on to Chapter 6, which talks about our pre-treatment program. Again, clarification in the district's authority to require the use of pre-treatment facilities and monitoring, sampling, and reporting, and clarifies that explicit connection to the district's enforcement response plan and enforcement Chapter 11, so linking some of the pre-treatment actions to our enforcement actions in the sewer ordinance. And this, again, helps with consistency, predictability, and protects the plant from high-risk discharges. Moving on to Chapter 7, we talk a little bit about dental clinics here, and these clarifications are updated to match federal law, and so the ordinance was aligned to match EPA's current dental rules, and we've added some clarity in inspection, reporting, and record keeping. So these changes in this Chapter 7 related to dental clinics are not new. They just reflect rules that were already in place, so we're bringing our ordinance up to speed. And our last chapter we updated was our billing chapter, and again, we made changes that were just intended to reflect the current billing practices the district undertakes to make sure that everything's aligned and transparent. So the next steps after this hearing is the deadline for written comments is Friday, June 5th, end of day, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can send those over email at info@madsewer.org. Make sure that we know what it's about. So include your name, title, organization, and that these are written comments to the district sewer use ordinance. We have scheduled on the commission calendar Thursday, June 11th, the acceptance of the sewer revisions. And then after those are accepted by the commission, and I guess we heard that it could be a different date in June, so I'll just clarify that it could be one of the commission meetings in June. It may not be June 11th. But after that action is taken, 1 week later, they'll be effective upon publication in the state.
So now we can open up for public comment, to anyone who wants to make a public comment. Are we going to have people?
Yes, we have two people in the room that would like to speak, so they can go ahead and just walk up to the mic. Chris Castle, do you want to start? Great.
Hi, thank you for hosting this. I'm Chris Castle at UW-Madison, and I have two comments I would like to make. First, Section 5.2.2 prohibits the disposal of any unused chemical products via the sewerage system and applies to all users. Section 5.2.3 already lists prohibited concentrations of specific chemicals. We would like a definition of unused chemical products and to understand the intent of this prohibition. My second point, Section 4.7.2 lists requirements for chloride reduction. The proposed verbiage references Wisconsin NR 106.90, which describes voluntary chloride reduction practices. We would like to know if your intent is to make the listed Tier 2 reduction practices mandatory for MMSD users. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And Mark?
Hello. I'm Mark Moder from the City of Madison, and I'm principal engineer for the City of Madison. Our comments are more or less with 4.7.2, the chlorine reduction. Of concern to us is the 4,000 grams per pound of salt will be difficult for us to implement. We have 80,000 customers in the City of Madison. From an implementation and these standards to actually inspect all these water softeners, even just looking at in terms of how long it would take us to inspect all of these different to just verify that the water softener is operating. If we were to do 6 per day, it would take us up to about 50 years to actually go through and inspect all of these water softeners. I think we do have comments that we will be submitting by Friday of next week. The main thing that we want to kind of emphasize is that with the uniform building code, they don't have any regulations with regard to the water softeners. Our request basically, with also reiterating the 106.9, that's voluntary as far as those regulations, and obviously, as a customer of the Madison Met, we're going to comply with whatever the regulations are, but we want to make sure that kind of reiterating what UW said, we want to make sure that we confirm what is actually going to be the standards going forward. One thought that we had was rather than focusing on all of the existing customers, I don't know if we've got, our revisions are more or less focused on more voluntary and more of a, education, rather prior to implementing some of the changes and requirements on our customers. Our thoughts are more or less we could focus on the manufacturers. You got Clack and you've got Fleck, manufacturers, one that's in town, the other one that's actually out of Brookfield and Indianapolis, Fleck is. That we would more or less, you could focus on whatever the Madison standards is, or the Madison Metropolitan Sewage District standard is. If it's 4,000 grams per, pound of salt, if that's what the regulation is, then so be it. So that would be for all new installations. Now, I don't know if we can do something in terms of for the existing customers. If we've got large water customers, that's something that we can obviously focus on. But I think from our standpoint, we would rather, I think our focus is we want to make sure that we're in compliance with whatever the regulations are going forward. But we also want, we're just looking at in terms of the practicality, in terms of the number of customers that we have. It's, it'd be a large task for us to go through all 80,000 of our customers. Appreciate it.
Thank you both. Cassie, is there anyone online? Okay. So I think what we'll do is hold the hearing open for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, if anyone else wants to join or make a comment. And again, the meeting's being recorded. We've accepted your comments. If you want to follow up in writing, please feel free to do so. Thank you, everyone, for coming to the public hearing. We're going to close the public comment period and the hearing. As a reminder, if you did not make comments today, you are welcome to submit those in writing by June 5th. Thanks, everyone, for attending.